Sometimes the loudest moments are the ones spoken softly, and that was exactly what happened when Bai Lu took the stage for her long-awaited speech. Cameras flashed, hearts raced, and the entire room fell into an expectant silence. Fans across the world tuned in, ready to witness what many believed would be one of the most defining statements of her career. But when she began to speak, something strange happened. Her words were calm, delicate even, but the world heard chaos. Translators rushed, subtitles flickered across live streams, and social media exploded with confusion. Did she mean what people thought she meant? Or had her message been lost somewhere between the lines? Before we dive deep into this mystery, take a moment to subscribe and join this global community uncovering the unseen truths behind the world of fame, emotion, and untold stories. Because what you're about to discover goes beyond language, beyond celebrity, and straight into the heart of what it means to be misunderstood. The stage that night was lit in gold, the crowd shimmering with cameras and whispers. Bai Lu stood alone under a single spotlight. The moment she began speaking, her tone carried both weight and warmth, her voice trembling slightly but steady enough to command attention. She wasn't reading from a teleprompter. She was speaking from memory, from emotion. But as the words left her lips, translations began scrolling on screens, and within seconds, the meaning started to drift. In Chinese, her phrases carried poetry, rhythm, and subtlety. Each sentence flowed into the next like water, implying pain without directly saying it, hinting at forgiveness without declaring it. But when the subtitles appeared in English, something essential was missing. The English translation read like a confession, as though she was addressing guilt or regret. But those who understood her native language knew better. She was speaking of endurance, of resilience, of the quiet strength that comes from surviving storms unseen by the world. Yet the damage was done. By the time her 10-minute speech ended, social media had already fractured into 1,000 interpretations. Some claimed she was apologizing for her past, others insisted she was confronting her critics. A few even thought she was revealing something deeply personal. The hashtags multiplied, the debate spiraled, and soon, the real message was buried beneath a wave of global speculation. In the days that followed, fans began dissecting every single phrase she used. One line, in particular, became the heart of the controversy. When translated literally, she said, "Some pain grows into silence, and silence turns into peace." But to those fluent in her dialect, it carried a deeper layer. It wasn't about surrender. It was about transformation. Bai Lu's team released an official statement days later, clarifying that no apology was ever intended. The speech, they explained, was about her journey through misunderstanding, about learning to stand firm even when people choose to twist your truth. But by then, the storm had already found its momentum. Clips from her speech flooded TikTok, Instagram, and Weibo. Fans analyzed her expressions frame by frame, some swearing they saw tears glisten in her eyes, others pointing out the quiver in her lips as proof of suppressed emotion. A viral post even claimed that a single phrase in her speech had been deliberately mistranslated to make her appear weak. And that's where the mystery deepened. A linguist from Beijing University analyzed her speech line by line and confirmed that several idioms had been incorrectly localized by translation software used by international broadcasters. What Bai Lu had said with poetic nuance was turned into something simplistic, even misleading. The elegance of her speech had been stripped away by algorithms that didn't understand emotion or cultural depth. Behind the scenes, however, there was another layer to this unfolding drama. Close sources revealed that Bai Lu had fought to write her own speech, refusing assistance from her agency or media team. She wanted authenticity. She wanted her voice. But in doing so, she unknowingly made herself vulnerable to misinterpretation. It was heartbreaking and beautiful all at once. While critics argued and headlines exaggerated, Bai Lu stayed silent. For 2 full days, she said nothing. No tweets. No interviews. No live sessions. Then, just when the silence felt unbearable, she posted a single message on her social page. "I said what I meant, even if you didn't understand it." Sometimes truth isn't meant to be translated, it's meant to be felt. The post went viral instantly. Within hours, it became one of the most shared statements of the year. Fans began using her words as captions, as art, even as tattoos. The meaning that had been lost in translation was now rediscovered through emotion, connection, and reflection. That was the beauty of it, her truth survived not through perfect words, but through raw humanity. Weeks later, a documentary crew released behind-the-scenes footage of that speech night. In it, you could see Bai Lu pacing backstage, clutching her notes, whispering to herself. Her assistant asked if she was nervous, and she smiled faintly. "I'm not nervous," she said softly, "I'm just ready for them to finally hear me." That single sentence redefined everything. It wasn't about scandal or apology. It was about voice. About finally speaking her truth in a world that often tells stars what to say, how to smile, and when to stay silent. After that, the public began to listen differently. Her next public appearance was calmer. Reporters didn't shout accusations. They listened. Fans didn't argue over meaning. They simply applauded. And perhaps, that was the real victory all along. Her words might have been lost in translation for a moment, but her message, the power of staying true even when misunderstood, transcended every language barrier in the end. Bai Lu's story became more than a controversy. It became a lesson in communication, culture, and the beauty of imperfection. It reminded the world that sometimes, what gets lost in translation can be found again through empathy. So, before you scroll past the next viral moment, take a second to listen, not just to hear, but to understand. Because meaning doesn't always live in the words themselves. Sometimes, it hides in the silence between them. If you believe that truth deserves to be felt, not just read, then subscribe right now. Join this journey as we continue to uncover the emotional, unseen, and often misunderstood stories of the stars who remind us that even in confusion, honesty still shines through. Because as Bai Lu proved, even when words are lost, truth always finds its way home. The auditorium was still echoing when Bai Lu walked off the stage. The crowd had clapped, but the applause carried a strange hesitation, as if no one was sure whether to celebrate her words or question them. Backstage the air was tense, cameras off, but emotions louder than before. Her manager followed closely, whispering to her in a low voice, asking why she had gone off script, but Bai Lu didn't answer. She just stood by the mirror, staring at her reflection, her eyes softer now, her expression unreadable, and the silence was heavier than anything she had said. Moments later, a phone buzzed on the counter. It was a message from Xing Fei, 3 words that would shift everything. "I understand now." Bai Lu's lips trembled, not from fear, but from the strange relief of being seen, of being understood even when the world had twisted her meaning. Earlier that day, Xing Fei had been the first to call her, warning her that the industry was watching, that Yu Minglong's situation had already divided fans, that one wrong phrase could destroy reputations, but Bai Lu had said something Xing Fei couldn't forget: "If truth ruins me, maybe silence would too." After the speech aired, the internet exploded. Translations in different languages carried different meanings. Some said she was defending someone, others thought she was confessing. The Chinese version, the English one, the Japanese one, all told different stories, but no one truly knew what she meant except her. In the middle of that storm, Dylan Wang's name appeared in trending searches again. Old interviews, backstage clips, and half-finished sentences were being replayed. Fans connected dots that never existed, creating threads that turned speculation into narratives, and narratives into rumors. Bai Lu sat in her apartment, the city lights painting quiet reflections on her window. She scrolled through the noise, through words that didn't sound like her, and for a moment she wondered if silence had become her curse or her protection. The next morning, an unexpected post appeared on Xing Fei's social account, a simple note that read, "Sometimes we hear the words, but miss the heart." Within minutes, it went viral, and everyone connected it to Bai Lu's speech. Debates reignited, but this time, something changed. Fans started listening instead of accusing. Meanwhile, Yu Minglong, who had kept quiet through the entire chaos, finally broke his silence. He shared a short clip of Bai Lu rehearsing before the event, her voice calm, rehearsing the same words that had caused all the uproar, but in that raw footage, her tone carried warmth, not defiance, understanding, not challenge. That was when people realized how translation, tone, and and cultural pause had painted the wrong picture. The speech wasn't an attack, it was a defense, not of herself but of a friend who had been misunderstood too many times, and in that realization, the internet turned from fury to empathy. Dylan Wang himself reposted Yu Minglong's clip with a single caption, "Now they'll finally understand." His post gathered millions of comments, fans from across the world admitting they had misread her, and Bai Lu, after days of silence, finally reappeared in a live broadcast. She smiled softly as she spoke, her voice steady yet trembling slightly with emotion. "I never wanted to be right, I only wanted to be understood," she said, "and if my words confused you, maybe it's because the truth is always heavier than translation." Her eyes glistened, not from pain, but from a strange calm, as if everything she had held in for months had finally found air. She thanked Xingfei publicly, thanked Dylan for standing beside the unseen truth, and finally addressed the audience who had stayed with her through it all. She said, "We build stories from what we hear, but sometimes the truth hides in the silence between sentences." And with that, the comment section flooded, not with hate, but with tears, hearts, and words of apology from fans around the world. Later that night, in a quiet restaurant by the harbor, Bai Lu met Xingfei again. They shared a long hug, the kind that spoke louder than the speeches. They laughed at how strange the world had become, how meanings shifted faster than emotions could catch up, and how sometimes, saying less meant more. The industry that had once questioned her was now silent too. Awards she thought she had lost were now returned, interviews once cancelled were now rescheduled, but Bai Lu no longer cared for the spotlight. She had learned something more valuable, that clarity doesn't come from words, but from intention. Days later, Dylan posted one final message, "Truth always translates, eventually," and under that post, Bai Lu quietly left a heart emoji. It was small, but fans noticed, and within hours, the internet lit up again, this time not with confusion, but with peace. The story that started as misunderstanding ended as revelation. The speech that divided millions had become a bridge, connecting voices that once fought against each other, and in that quiet unity, Bai Lu's message was finally heard for what it truly was, not an explanation, but a reminder that honesty can survive even when meaning gets lost. As the camera faded out on the final clip of Bai Lu standing before a sunset skyline, her voice echoed softly in the background. Words may change, translations may twist, but the heart never lies, and for the first time, everyone listening finally understood.